Okay. Man, that's awesome. You know what? I love being a part of the Church of Jesus Christ. But you know what I love too is I love being a part of this church. I love you guys. I love this body, the whole bunch of everybody. And I feel the weight sometimes of what that love really means. Not just like in words and speaking about things and maybe even a side hug, you know what I'm saying? But like really loving, like the scripture says, with actions and with truth, serving each other, preferring one another, preferring the needs of one another. Okay. I'm going to hope that one of these is the right one here. And go with it. There we go. Today I'm just going to give you a warning, okay? I have 57 slides. You're like, okay, now, well, you know, I am going to do my best to get us out of here by like 11:15, okay? So just please pay attention, because I'm going to go quickly. We're going to talk about the Antichrist today. And you may be thinking, what the heck, we're talking about the Antichrist in church? Yes, we are. Because we need to understand the strategy, we understand the plan of the enemy. We're happy to be at chapter 13, so if we're working through the book of Revelation, guess what? This is what the Bible says. So if you have an issue, today is not the day, okay? We're going to be talking about the Antichrist. And let me tell you something. As I was preparing for this, as I was studying, I just want you to know, spiritual warfare is real. And about every 15, 20 minutes, I literally had to get up. I had worship music playing through the entire time I was studying this whole thing. Because this is such a heavy weight. The darkness is so real. The spiritual warfare is so happening. And I know the devil does not like to be exposed one bit. So when light shines on what he's doing, you just feel that. And so every 15, 20 minutes, I would get up and I would just have to just worship the Lord and then resume study. So I want you to know this is with great, conflict coming through all of this, that the Lord is, I hope the Lord, through me, is delivering this message to you today. As we read a scripture, as we talk about all this stuff, there's some serious implications about the things that are coming to this world, about what are happening now and what will happen in the days ahead of us. So without further here we go. Revelation 13. But before we get to there, we're going to go to Daniel 7. Okay? So Revelation 13, but we're going to introduce this whole thing with Daniel chapter 7. You can't actually read the book of Revelation and understand what it means unless you're reading side by side the book of Daniel, because there's so much in Daniel that corresponds with Revelation, gives you a lot of details that happen in between. So let's read this together. The first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel saw a dream and visions of his head as he lay in his bed. All right. And he wrote down the dream and told the sum of the matter. Daniel declared, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the four winds of heaven were stirring up the great sea. Remember, we talking about four, number of the earth. Okay? Lots of things are happening. Four great beasts came up out of the sea, different from one another. Now, last week we read about this. And this, I believe, is not only talking about the first, okay, it was a lion, not only Babylon, which is talking about here in the context, but it's also, I think, talking about the, in the present day, the British Empire, as it were, and these eagle wings. The wings were plucked off, it was lifted up from the ground, made to stand on 2 feet like a man, and the mind of a man was given to him. I think that's exactly a perfect description of the independence of America, standing on its own, becoming independent, apart from England. So, but that's just what we talked about last week. But we're going to talk about it in context of the four kingdoms that are coming, okay? Behold, another beast, a second one, like a bear. It was raised up on one side, it had 3 ribs in its mouth between its teeth, and it was told, arise, devour much flesh. Now this empire, again, Babylon, Persia, okay? After this I looked, behold, another, like a leopard, with 4 wings of a bird on its back, and the beast had 4 heads, and dominion was given to it. And this is Greece, okay? The leopard is Greece, symbolizing the 4th. And now there's 4 heads. Alexander the Great split his empire after he was after he died, his empire split into 4 parts. His generals, 4 generals took control. And so those are the 4 heads that we see there. This is a fulfillment. This is a prophecy, and the fulfillment happened shortly after with the rise and fall of the consecutive empires. After this I saw in the night visions, behold, a 4th beast. Okay, so we've got Babylon, we've got Persia, we've got Greece, and a 4th beast, terrifying and dreadful, exceedingly strong. It had great iron teeth. It devoured and broke in pieces. Stamped what was left at its feet. It was different from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. Now this 4th beast is Rome, okay? And so Rome is the world empire that comes after the Greek Empire. But Rome is unique because Rome breaks apart, so to speak, and then he talks about these 10 horns. So Rome is actually split into like what I would call Rome 1 and then Rome 2, the final sort of Rome kingdom, which we're living in. I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them, and we're talking about those 10 horns, by the way. We'll get there. It's crazy. There came up among them another horn, a little one, an 11th, okay? It's 11th horn, before which 3 of the first horns. Now, horn in Hebrew is strength, okay? So it's a symbol of rulership, like a kingdom within a kingdom, okay? Plucked up by the roots, and behold, this horn, there were eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking great things. Of course, this last horn, this final horn, 11th horn, is the Antichrist, okay? So Daniel's vision of 4 beasts, his world empires. The 4th beast, which we're going to call Rome and Rome 2, is terrifying and dreadful. It's exceedingly strong. It's got iron teeth, devours and breaks in pieces, and stamps what was left. It has 10 horns, and the 11th horn with eyes of a man and a mouth speaking boastful things, which will come at the end. Now, the breaking into pieces and stamping what was left, Rome conquered most of the known world, and then Rome broke apart into its constituencies, okay, the little pieces of it, which are still around. Then I desired to know the truth about the 4th beast, which was different from all the rest, exceedingly terrifying, with its teeth of iron, claws of bronze, and which devoured and broke in pieces and stamped what was left with its feet. And about the 10 horns that were on its head, another horn that came up, before which 3 of them fell, the horn that had eyes and a mouth that spoke great things, and seemed greater than its companions. And as I looked, this horn made war with the saints and prevailed over them. Okay? Until the Ancient of Days came. And this is one of the most documented times of history in the entire Bible. You know, we take really easily, we believe things about Jesus' life and his death and his resurrection and crucifixion. This is documented more throughout Scripture than even the things that Jesus did on the earth. Okay, so we need to pay attention to the stuff that because it says it over and over again. There's multiple times where it talks about war with the saints and prevailed over them. Until the Ancient of Days came. Amen. And judgment was given for the saints of the Most High. And the time came when the what? Who? The saints possess the kingdom. Okay? So we get through all the darkness, and on the other side, God entrusts the entire kingdom, everything he entrusts to the saints, to his people. Okay? Okay. Thus he said, as for the 4th beast, there shall be a 4th kingdom on the earth, which shall be different from all the kingdoms. It shall devour the whole earth, trample it down, break it to pieces. As for the 10 horns, out of this kingdom 10 kings shall rise. He's defining it now. And another shall rise after them. He shall be different from the former ones, and he shall put down 3 kings. Okay, so you've got 3 horns, put down 3 horns, horns of kings. Okay? And it's very easy to understand. Right. He shall speak words against the Most High, shall wear out the saints of the Most High. Same thing, right? Prevail over them. Wear out. Shall think to change the times in the law, and they shall be given into his hand, again, prevail for a time, times, and half a time. Okay? 3.5 years. That's what times there is not like a multiplicity, it's a dual. Okay? In Hebrew, it's a dual. So it's 2. Time, times, and half a time. But the court shall sit in judgment, his dominion shall be taken away to be consumed and destroyed to the end. So, the kingdom and the dominion and the greatness of the kingdoms of the whole heaven shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High. His kingdom shall be an everlasting kingdom, and all dominions. All dominions. That's not even just earthly dominions. Understand? All dominions shall serve and obey him. So, this 11th horn the Antichrist, makes war with the saints, prevails for a time, okay, that 3.5-year period, blasphemes the Lord, and the Lord doesn't kill him immediately for it. So people are wondering, well, you ever think about, like, oh man, you need to be careful what you just said, lightning could come down and strike you, right? Okay? Well, people are going to notice, well, he's saying all kinds of really terrible things against God, and God's not doing anything about it. AKA, maybe God isn't really there. Okay, so he's going to take the place of that. Desires to change the times of law, holds authority, worldwide dominion. So when we look at this chart here, you can see his 3.5-year reign, where he's building it, and then he's conquering in that whole period of time before the abomination of desolation. And we'll also talk about that today. And then the 3.5-year period, he reigns on the earth, and during that period of reigning, that time of his control of the world, that's when God's wrath is poured out upon him. He's still reigning over the whole world. He still has authority. People are still being deceived, and there are still opportunities for salvation, as we see the 144,000 have a ministry during that period of time. And Jesus comes at the very end, and he comes, and the Antichrist, weirdly enough, makes war with the Lamb. Crazy stuff. Like, why would you mess with Jesus? Right? Well, he does. So, I want to talk about here shadows of the divine. When I talk about shadows, I mean like Satan likes to counterfeit things, okay? And so when we look at the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and humanity, oddly enough, we're going to see how that corresponds with these evil entities that are rising up, okay? So the Father, the source, the wellspring, the Word, and the witness, okay, that was kind of clever, but you know what I'm saying? Like, that's kind of cool, right? The wellspring, the Father, the source, the Word, the Son that proceeds, the witness that bears witness of what the Father and the Son, who the Father and the Son are. So Satan here is taking the place of the Father, the Antichrist taking the place of the Son of God, the false prophet, which we'll talk about here in a minute, the witness to the rest of the world to worship the Son and the Father, and the Holy Spirit, right? And then humanity made in God's image, and we're going to see what I believe is the abomination of desolation. We're going to see how that all fits in, okay? Crazy, crazy stuff. Now, I want to talk to you a little bit, just to kind of flashback. Remember, the abomination of desolation was an actual event. This prophecy that Daniel had made happened when Antiochus Epiphanes IV came in and desecrated the holy place in like 100 and something BC, right? He comes in and he slaughters a pig on the altar, and he commands people to eat bacon. But in their day, they were like, no, we don't want to like, disobey God. It was a conscious thing for them, and so he would kill anybody who didn't comply and eat a sacrifice from that altar. So there's the abomination of desolation, the holy place desecrated, okay? That's the Old Testament version, and we're going to talk about what I think is the New Testament, the fulfillment of that whole thing, okay? You are made in the image of God. You are made in the image of God. So humanity, all of us together, God has imprinted his image. And because of sin, we are a fallen version of that image. However, because we're in the flesh, because we retain what God has made in us, there is a possibility of redemption through Jesus Christ, through his blood. Okay? And through this whole time period, we talked a little bit about the seed of the woman and the seed of the serpent. And the seed of the woman traced all the way through history, and how the devil has tried so hard and has been at war with that seed, that bloodline, all the way through, to try to pervert it, to try to destroy it. Jesus, before he was born, and they tried to kill, right? Even in Moses' day, tried to wipe out the Israelites. And so we are fearfully and wonderfully made, and the devil knows it. He knows who we are, and he hates us. He hates everything about us. He hates everything about what we represent. Now, I want to talk about, there's the technology, so to speak, of the media, which is how we're made, right? Okay? And that's like the hardware, okay? It's like all your pieces put together, your brain, everything. But then there's the technology also of the message. There's the software that God has downloaded. There's things in us that like we do naturally, or we do, or we think. We have different ways of going about how to do something. We're not just robots, right? So there's two aspects of who we are. How we're made, and then also the message that He's planted within us. And that's the same for everything that has breath, everything that moves, everything that's alive. Like, in other words, ink and paper thrown together doesn't produce the message, right? You just have a bunch of ink and paper, but there's technology, there's a design, even in the message, that is imparted upon even the stuff that's there. So not only, if you believe in chance, not only do you have to have the ink and paper come out of nowhere, right? But then you've also got to somehow have the message come out of nowhere. So there's a two-part problem, I think, with well, atheism in general, but also with this idea that we all spontaneously evolved from some sort of chance occurrence, right? Okay? And I'm saying that because there's two separate ways of us, who we are, coming together. So this is a quote from Michael Denton in 1986, wrote a book he's a secular biologist, and he's talking about evolution. He says this: molecular biology has shown that even the simplest of all living systems on Earth today, bacterial cells, are exceedingly complex objects. Although the tiniest bacterial cells are incredibly small, weighing less than 10 to 12 grams each, is in effect a veritable micro-miniaturized factory containing thousands of exquisitely designed pieces of intricate molecular machinery made up altogether of 100,000 million atoms. Far more complicated than any machine built by man, and absolutely without parallel in the non-living world. Does that not blow you away? A bacterial cell, like a one-celled organism, this guy is saying is more complex than anything we have ever designed. Well, that ought to humble you as a human being, right? Our brains are like tiny compared to the brain, the power, the thoughts of God. And so, like any good student of the scriptures, I went and studied cellular replication. And quantum physics, for that matter. So I literally did, my wife can tell you, I sat there and I watched videos to try to wrap my mind around this stuff, around cellular replication, which is the simple stuff. Simple, right? That's the simple, that's like the one cell thing. And then I was like, well, let's go to the complex stuff. Let's think, what about quantum physics? Do you know this? That the universe is actually limited, and it's limited on both sides. So it's limited in how tiny you can go, and it's limited in how big you can go, believe it or not. There is, the Hubble telescope can only see 13.5 some billion light years because there's this wall. There's this microwave infrared, there's this radiation wall that's right there. It's like the beginning of the universe. It's like you can peer so far back through time, so to speak, and you get to this wall where there's nothing beyond it. And that's as far as the telescope can see. Okay? Now, I'm not saying necessarily that the universe is 13.5 billion years old, because I think our God is fully capable of creating the light already on its way here. Am I right? God is fully capable of creating a tree that already has rings in it. Am I right? He's fully capable of creating soil that already has layers in it, mountains that have already been built. Am I right? God can create the world already having had a history that didn't actually exist in reality. Whoa. Right? Am I right about that? That the light can already have been here, and there's a story that we look back on that may not have actually existed in reality, so to speak, but exists in our reality. Quantum physics, guys, okay? It's blowing your mind, I know. It's blowing my mind too. Okay? So you can go so far out, so far big, and you get to a limit. Guess what? You also get to a limit when you break things down to the tiniest level. As you break up an atom, okay, it's the smallest thing most of you probably have thought of before. You break up an atom and you get these things called neutrinos. You break up neutrinos and you get to things called quarks and other bosons, like really weird names, right? Okay? Probably these guys that invented a boson. Mr. Boson or something, I don't know, whatever. But there's these tiny things, okay, and they begin to actually, this is true, they begin to actually lose location. Like you can't actually identify where they are because they exist simultaneously in 2 different areas, or 3 or 4 or 10. These tiny things don't actually possess the same physical properties as the things that are bigger than them, and you can't get smaller than them. It's like 10 to the negative 33rd or something like that when you subdivide things all the way down. Is that not crazy? I'm a little crazy after going through all this and watching all these things. literally, I mean, trying to wrap my mind around something that is in multiple places at once. Why do you think it's possible that Jesus was able to like teleport? Like he's above all this stuff, right? He's beyond the physical boundaries of our universe. And I'm sure that there's a way that he could explain it to us, how he was able to move through walls and like all of a sudden, oh, here I am, you know? That God is beyond the boundaries of our universe, okay? Genesis 1:25, and God made the beasts of the earth according to their kinds, and the livestock according to their kinds, and everything that creeps on the earth according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. That's an important thing, according to its kind. In other words, you don't start with something like a single-celled organism and somehow end up with a human being over millions of years. It would just impossible. For all that to happen, God made it according to their kinds. Everything is in order, everything is designed, it has a boundary, it has a place, it has a purpose, and God made it, and he saw that it was good. This is God's creation first, and we ought to remember that. So, let's talk about how we cross some of these boundaries. Crossing boundaries can involve moral crossing, can involve ethical crossing, biological crossing boundaries, as we're starting to discover, and even metaphysical, as I was talking about with all this crazy nonsense. Now, as we're crossing these boundaries in science, which we are crossing them, we're going to talk about some of the ways we've crossed some of these boundaries. As we're crossing them, are they a panacea, so to speak, a cure-all? Let's find a cure for cancer, let's find a cure for Parkinson's, let's find a cure for all of the diseases that we need. And guess what? We can get them from these stem cells from embryos. So if we just manufacture, an embryo, we can get some of these things that can help us. But what are we doing morally, ethically? What are we doing biologically? Are we crossing into something where we have no idea what we're getting into? And that's what we're talking about as far as a Pandora's box, opening something and all of a sudden, it's outside of your control, it's outside, like even with how many people have allergies to wheat, and I wonder if some of this stuff isn't related to the amount of GMOs that are in the world today, like the genetically modified things that have sort of, like we're messing with things we're not necessarily sure of. We don't know the implications long term of the stuff that we're tampering with, right? You have so many different medications that we're creating, but yet the medications, as they go on and progress, we're finding, well, maybe some of that stuff, and it's like a trial and error, so to speak. But when does that actually begin to cross boundaries? We're not just discovering things, but we're crossing things that God has limited, that God has made sacred. We'll come back to that. So the beast out of the sea. Daniel chapter 2, 36 through 45. This is the dream. Now we will tell the king its interpretation. You, O king, are the king of kings, the God of heaven, who has given the kingdom, the power, the might, and the glory. Who does that sound like? You see how God has given him the dominion? It's God who gave it to him. And into whose hand he has given, whether they dwell, the children of man, the beasts of the field, all the birds of the heavens, making you rule over them. You are the head of gold. So talk about that statue. Another kingdom inferior to you shall arise after you, and yet a third kingdom of bronze, which shall rule over the whole earth. And there'll be a fourth kingdom strong as iron. As you saw the feet and the toes, partly of potter's clay, partly of iron, be a divided kingdom. Check this out also, toes, 10 horns, 10 kingdoms, okay? It's all coming together. Some of the firmness of iron shall be in it, just as you saw iron mixed with the soft clay. And as the toes of the feet were partly iron, so the kingdom shall be partly strong, partly brittle. As you saw the iron mixed with soft clay, so they will mix with the seed of men, but they will not hold together, just as iron does not mix with clay. And in the days of those kings, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom that shall never be destroyed, nor shall be left to another people. It shall break in pieces all these kingdoms, bring them to an end, and it shall stand forever. God is coming, he's going to rule. It's going to be awesome. Okay? So let's actually read Revelation 13. The beast out of the sea. I saw a beast rising out of the sea with 10 horns and 7 heads, with 10 diadems on its horns, and blasphemous names on its heads. Now this is in correspondence with, you see the diadems are on the horns. When it describes the devil, it says the devil, the Satan, the dragon, has 7 heads also, and it also has 10 horns. But the crowns, oddly enough, with Satan are on the heads. And I think what's happening is here, he's delegating his authority. And you're moving these crowns to the horns. Okay? Small little nuance, but I think it's important. And the beast that I saw was like a leopard. its feet were like a bear's, its mouth was like a lion's mouth. Is this all sounding familiar? And to the dragon, and to it the dragon gave his power and his throne and his great authority. So you have a conglomeration of all of these past kingdoms, a coming together of one world kingdom that brings in all of the others behind it. One of its heads seemed to have a mortal wound, but its wound was healed, and the whole earth marveled as they followed the beast. So this is a specific thing about the Antichrist, okay, that it will reference for the future, that he'll be identified with this mortal wound that gets healed. Okay. They worshipped the dragon, for he had given his authority to the beast, and they worshipped the beast, saying, "Who is like the beast, and who can fight against it?" And the beast was given a mouth, uttering haughty and blasphemous words, and was allowed to exercise authority for 42 months, 3.5 years, same period of time, 1260 days, all that stuff's the same thing. Opened its mouth to utter blasphemies against God, blaspheming his name and his dwelling, that is, those who dwell in heaven. Also was allowed to make war on the saints and to conquer them. And authority was given it over every tribe and people and language and nation, and all who dwell on the earth will worship it. Everyone whose name has not been written before the foundation of the world in the book of life of the Lamb who was slain. If anyone has an ear, let him hear. If anyone is taken captive, to captivity he goes. If anyone is to be slain with the sword he must be slain. Here is a call for the endurance and faith of the saints. And it's not that prayer doesn't work during this time, okay? It's not that prayer doesn't work. But it's that during this time, if anyone is to be taken captive, to captivity he goes. In other words, there is a genuine authority that's given to the beast to be able to overcome the saints for this time period. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay? That's why it says here's a call for the endurance and faith of the saints during this time period. Now, let's look at this. There's 7 heads. And I filled in the blanks for you so you don't have to worry about it. Okay? 5 have fallen. 1 is, the other has not yet come. And when he does come, he must remain only a little while. That's in chapter 17, which we haven't gotten to yet, but I thought it was very useful for this period of time that we're talking about. John is writing in a time of Rome. Okay? So Rome is the one that is. 5 have fallen. We trace it back, we can see that it's Greece, Persia, Babylon, and before Babylon was the Assyrian Empire, and before the Assyrian Empire was the Egyptian Empire. Okay? So you have these 7 heads of the dragon. These are his world governments that he's throughout the ages, throughout history, he has ruled from. Okay? 5 have fallen, 1 is, and the other has not yet come. That's the 7th. Okay? There's also 10 horns. 10 toes from Nebuchadnezzar's statue. 10 kings or divided kingdoms of the original empire that will reign as prefects of the beast in the one world government. Now, you're going to see these 10 toes in a minute in our world because they're already, the UN has a sustainable development plan, and the UN has actually subdivided the entire planet into 10 different areas. Go figure. Through his policy, also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself as our, and by peace he shall destroy many. Okay? When you read you go to Google Sustainable Development Plan and what the UN is doing, and it looks very, very nice. So it's very peaceful. We're ending poverty. We're bringing everybody together. So we think. So there's the world subdivided into, let's count them, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10 areas in this world. This is how the UN divides the world into 10 areas. Okay? You can see how that all corresponds to each other. Whether or not that's how things will be in the end, I don't know. I just thought it was kind of a little bit of a coincidence, that this whole thing was, there were 10 of them. They had 10 divided areas. And we can study that for a second, and then I'm going to... Well, so, the Antichrist, the 11th horn, the beast out of the sea, okay? From Daniel 11, I'm not going to read all these, so we don't have time to read them, but I summed them up so you can see. From Daniel 11, he's going to magnify himself above all gods, ironically by the help of a foreign god. Okay? But he's going to magnify himself above all gods. He's going to claim himself to be the stuff. 2 Thessalonians 2. There's a restrainer that's restraining the Antichrist until he comes with the power of Satan, with all kinds of false signs and wonders. Now, some people believe that's the Holy Spirit. It could be other things, not really sure, but there's somebody restraining the Antichrist right now. And the devil has had a man in the pocket in every generation, just in case that restrainer is taken away and he can just power zap. I'm sure the people who were in World War II were like, it's over. And this is the end. I'm sure that's what they thought. And there's probably countless generations in the past also that thought this could be the end because the devil's been ready. Revelation 17, the beast and the kings will all be of one mind, and they will make war on the Lamb. So, the beast out of the sea, the beast out of the earth, which is the false prophet. Then I saw another beast rising out of the earth. It had 2 horns like a lamb, and it spoke like a dragon. So it's going to look like Jesus, but it's going to speak like the devil. Okay? It exercises all the authority of the first beast in its presence, makes the earth and its inhabitants worship the first beast, whose mortal wound was healed. It performs great signs, even making fire come down from heaven to the earth in front of people. And by the signs that it is allowed to work in the presence of the beast, it deceives those who dwell on the earth, telling them to make an image for the beast that was wounded by the sword and yet lived. And it was allowed to give breath to the image of the beast. It's not just like, let's just make an idol and you have to bow down to the idol. It says we're going to give life and breath to this idol, that the beast might even speak and might cause those who would not worship the image of the beast to be slain. Also it causes all, both small and great, both rich and poor, free and slave, to be marked on the right hand of the forehead, that no one can buy or sell unless he has the mark. That is the name of the beast, or the number of his name. This calls for wisdom. Let the one who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it's the number of man, and his number is 666. I said it, okay? It's up on the screen. It's okay. It's the number of a man. Okay? Don't get freaked out. So, the beast out of the earth, 2 horns like a lamb, speaking like a dragon. It's the same authority as the first beast. He makes all people worship the beast from the sea, performs great deceiving signs and wonders. He tells the earth dwellers, people that are still here, to make a living, speaking, powerful image of the first beast. Forces all to be marked with his number in order to buy and to sell. Now, I'm not going to speculate. There's a lot of people that speculate about what all that stuff is. I don't know. But all I know is we need to be aware that all of this is happening. All this is coming to take place. And you'll have a choice. We all have a choice. And so, from the false prophet comes this image of what I think is the abomination of desolation. So I want to talk about the ethics of human cloning, which is already it's been done. It hasn't really been super successful, but it's been done. And I talked about manufacturing embryos from stem cells for tissue replication. I talked about crossing the boundaries that are established by God, tampering with the engines of creation, not holding the divine image sacred, wrecking God's masterpiece. You realize you're the masterpiece of all that God made in the world. And when we tamper with this, we're tampering with what He's made. You have to know that. It's not just like, well, because we can do it, we should do it. Does that make sense? That's a huge thing, I think, in a lot of, because people don't believe in God, there's no